All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a powerful secret from the world of business strategy. It's something that explains why some companies are just destined to thrive, while others seem doomed to fail. Let's get right into it.
I mean, really think about it. You see two companies, right? Both seem to be working hard, they both have products people want, but one is just swimming in cash, while the other can barely keep the lights on. What is the secret ingredient here?
And look at this. This isn't a small gap. We're talking about a massive difference. You've got the airline industry, absolutely essential, huge companies, and they scrape by with about a 6% return. At the same time, companies making soft drinks are pulling in over 37%. I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, here's the big reveal. We love to focus on the individual company, Great leadership, genius marketing. But the real secret, the thing that often matters most, is the structure of the industry you're playing in. That structure sets the rules of the game for profitability.
So, how do you see this hidden structure? Well, there's a tool for it. It's called the Five Forces Framework. Think of it like a special set of glasses that lets you see all the invisible pressures that are shaping competition and profits in any industry. And trust me, once you see it, you can never unsee it. So let's kick things off with the two forces that are constantly putting the squeeze on profits, one from the top and one from the bottom. Imagine your business is in a vice. On one side, you have your suppliers, the folks who sell you the raw materials you need, and on the other, you have your buyers, your customers. Both of them want to get the best deal possible. And that value they're trying to capture, it often comes straight out of your pocket. So let's talk about supplier power. This is when your suppliers can basically hold you hostage. They can jack up the prices for critical components, and because you absolutely need them, you don't have much choice but to pay up. So how do they get this power? Well, a few key ways. If there are only one or two suppliers for what you need, they've got all the leverage. If what they provide is totally unique and there's no substitute, you're stuck. And the classic example, of course, is Microsoft back in the day. They had a near monopoly on PC operating systems, giving them incredible power over every single computer maker. Okay, now let's flip to the other side of that vice, your customers, or buyer power. Powerful buyers can call the shots. They can demand lower prices. They can insist on better quality or more service, and they do it by playing you off against your competitors. So when do your buyers have all the cards? Well, it happens when there are just a few big customers buying in huge volumes. They can make massive demands. It also happens if your product is basically a commodity, something that's easy to swap out. And if it costs them next to nothing to switch from you to your competitor, then you have very little leverage.
All right, so we've got the squeeze from the top and the bottom. But what about the threats coming in from the sides? This is about the outsiders. It doesn't matter how profitable an industry is. If there's money to be made, you can bet someone new is going to want a piece of that action. These new entrants bring more supply and a hunger for market share, and that almost always puts a lid on how much profit everyone can make.
So what keeps the new guys out? You can think of these as barriers to entry, like moats around an industry's castle. Things like huge economies of scale, where the big players have massive cost advantages, or really high switching costs that make it a pain for customers to leave. Sometimes you just need a staggering amount of cash to even get started, or the government itself restricts who can play. Now, this next one is a little sneaky, but it is incredibly powerful. It's the threat of substitutes. A substitute isn't a direct competitor. It's a completely different way of solving the same customer problem. It's so easy to miss because it doesn't come from your rivals. It comes from a totally different industry. I mean, think about it. Airlines aren't just competing with other airlines. They're competing with Zoom and video conferencing. And Blockbuster didn't just lose to other video stores. They were made completely obsolete by substitutes like Netflix and YouTube, which delivered entertainment in a fundamentally new way. And finally, we get to the force that everybody thinks of first, rivalry. This is the head-to-head battle, the constant fight for customers and position. But it's not just about competition existing. It's the intensity of that rivalry that really determines if anyone makes money. So when does simple competition turn into a destructive, profit-killing war? It happens when you've got a bunch of competitors who are all about the same size, all scrapping for an edge. Or when the whole industry isn't growing much, so the only way to win is to steal customers. And if it's super expensive or difficult to just quit the business, companies will fight to the bitter end. Just think about an airline seat. The second that plane takes off, an empty seat is worthless. That creates a massive incentive to cut prices just to fill it.
Okay, so you've analyzed all these forces, you've mapped them out. Now what? This isn't just some classroom exercise. Understanding this framework is literally the foundation for building a strategy that can actually win.
Let's circle all the way back to our original mystery. Why is it so darn hard for airlines to make a consistent profit? Well, now we have the tools to figure it out. And here it is, the brutal truth for the airline industry. Almost every single one of these 5 forces is cranked up to the max and working against them. You've got incredibly powerful suppliers like Boeing and the unions. You have price-sensitive customers who can switch carriers with a single click. There are always substitutes, like cars or trains or just staying home. And the rivalry, it is absolutely ferocious. It's a perfect storm for terrible profitability. And that really is the bottom line, straight from the man himself, Michael Porter. You simply cannot create a winning strategy if you don't fundamentally understand the battlefield you're on. The 5 forces framework is your map. So once you have this map, you've really got 2 main moves you can make. The first is to find a position within your industry where the forces are weakest, carve out a niche where you can protect yourself. Or the more ambitious move is to try and reshape the forces themselves to make the whole industry better for you. So if you want to put this to work, here's the game plan. It's actually pretty straightforward. 1. Get really clear on the industry you're analyzing. 2. Identify all the key players for each of the 5 forces. 3. Assess how strong each force is. Is it a hurricane or a gentle breeze? That lets you, number 4, understand the overall industry structure. And finally, number 5, and this is so important, look at how these forces are changing. What's the trend? So I'll leave you with this question. Think about your own company, your own career, or just an industry you find fascinating. Which of these 5 forces is the one that's really shaping its future? Is it a new technology creating a substitute? A powerful new buyer? Because I guarantee you, one of these forces is defining the game. The only question is, which one is it?